Hello and welcome to Drive a Double Feature Podcast. I'm Nathan,
I'm Ryan.
and this is the podcast where we talk about two movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. But before we get into today's movie, head on over to patreon.com/slash Drive a Double Feature Podcast, where we have a bunch of quizzes, games, and also pre-show talks where we just sit around and talk about whatever. If that sounds fun to you, you help support us for $5 a month and you get that content. None of the main show content is locked behind Patreon. But getting into this Tuesday's movie, we're talking about See No Evil from 1971, starring Mia Farrow and directed by a returning director, Richard Fleischer, who directed Fantastic Voyage and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. So isn't that crazy? We're back at it again.
Oh, that makes sense now.
Does it? I don't know about that one actually. I guess that's what is funny about this director. So he started with those, and those two movies are very similar in my opinion. But then later in his career, it started to get really weird because he made Soylent Green after this one, and he also made Red Sonja and Conan the Destroyer. So his career went a lot of weird places, and this is one of them.
Well, yeah, it's like, well, you consider too, those first two movies were such grand scale movies, and this one's a very, very small movie.
Yeah, it's almost like it's a small scale horror movie, not a lot of sets, not much goes on in it. So this movie is, oh, and I gotta say, sorry, I didn't bring this up. His very last movie was Amityville 3D. So you end on a high note, people. Uh, and the jazz singer.
The remake
the
with
80s
Neil
remake.
Diamond.
Yeah.
Wow.
At least he was making movies. To make, I think 20,000 Leagues was 1954, and he's making movies until the 80s. So, cool career.
Salt of the earth.
Who knows? He could be. But See No Evil is about Mia Farrow, who has recently been blinded. She fell off a horse, and this movie gets right into that. We do not see the accident; we just see her, and we realize she's blind. The movie opens up very much like a slasher movie, with where we're following someone, and he's kind of a creep, and it's very shadowy, and we only see their boots. That's all we get to see for most of the movie. And I don't know if there's one thing I think it is really interesting for a 1971 movie. This movie has a lot of horror, Italian giallo tropes in a way. It has that feel. I feel like I've seen a giallo where somebody's blind and getting harassed.
Well, yeah, I mean, like they really don't like make a big deal about who the killer is, really.
No.
And that's kind of like with the Italian giallo, because I mean we've talked about some Italian giallos. We're like, oh my god, the killer was this person. It's like a totally inconsequential character that had like
Okay.
nothing to do with the plot.
Yeah, there's I guess like as an audience now, it's like, oh, there's going to be a mystery and it has to be a big twist, and it's just like, oh no, it's just a random creep that's been
Yeah,
terrorizing these people.
but they do a lot of the interesting shots too, like you said. Like the guy has a very distinct boots on, and you only
Hmm.
see those throughout the movie. So there's a lot of shots like that, like a lot of like low shots of like shoes or things of him walking.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that was really interesting because there's like a part where he's really angry and he throws something on the ground and you see his boots kicking it. I think he breaks his gun. That's right. And he's trying to bury it. And you see just a shot from a low angle, him doing trying to pile dirt over it. And I think that's cool. It's a movie that that could have been done very boringly, right? But they decided to take that element and really work it into the movie. And yeah, I think it does something different. Um, so Mia Farrow is blind and she's kind of rethinking life now. She's like, okay, what am I gonna do? And you could tell she's very depressed. I guess I'll ask you, Ryan, how did you feel about her performance in this movie?
I didn't like her British accent for
Yes,
one.
yeah, her British accent was pretty rough because it was, I don't know, it is very in and out. There were some lines where she had it, and then when she would yell, she would completely lose it. Um,
I do like Mia Farrow a lot. I mean, she's
Me
done
too.
some great performances. Like I did like her in Purple Rose of Cairo.
That's what I was going to bring up.
And Rosemary's Baby is a classic.
Yeah, yeah. Usually her stuff with Woody Allen, she's pretty good in.
But I will say this is kind of an underwhelming performance from her.
I do agree. It is underwhelming. That's a good way to put it. It does have some highs where she screams and stuff, but it's not really good. I don't know. I didn't love her performance. Um, I just really wasn't feeling it. I mean, she plays blind well, and she's doing the thing where she's like looking, but you can tell that she's almost like looking through something. She's not really seeing anything. And I mean, there's some fun moments where they play with it. Where that one scene where she comes back, and there's broken glass everywhere, and there's those shots over and over again of her foot just grazing over the glass,
Yeah,
like she's almost gonna step on it.
yeah, I did like that type of shots where it's just like she's completely unaware of her
Uh-huh.
surroundings, and it's like, oh, she's just narrowly
Mm-hmm.
missing a lot of these hazards, or like missing like discovering like a dead body.
Yeah, I agree. It's like it's a good way to build suspense. Even though I'll be honest, we'll get into why this happens, but she's around dead bodies, doesn't know it. I'm pretty sure dead bodies start to stink. I don't know how quickly they start to stink, but I think you would notice. I'm just saying, I wouldn't be able to sleep a whole night with a dead body next to me.
Oh, maybe you have before. Maybe you just haven't known it.
Yeah, I could. Who knows? It might be a repressed memory. Who knows?
I don't
Um,
know. Do how early do dead bodies stink? I thought they had. I thought it had to.
It might need to rot. I mean, I maybe we're getting too dark here, but I maybe they don't stink. I don't know. I don't know how it works.
Well, they would definitely have an odor. I just don't know if it would be like because you always see like people walking into crime scenes or whatever, like, oh my god, it stink.
Yeah,
Like. But I don't
uh,
know if it's because it's been days or what.
that is true. Isn't there a scene where she touches one of the dead bodies and she like says her sister's name? And I'm pretty sure at least the body would be extremely cold.
True. It would
Yeah.
definitely be cold.
Yeah, but anyway, I do like the setup. So she goes away to meet up with her boyfriend to stay with him, and kind of like it's like a final moments thing because she's saying I'm moving away, um, and she comes back to the home, and while she was gone, a serial killer came and killed. Well, not a serial killer, I guess, just a killer came and murdered her entire family, and she doesn't know it. So she spends a good chunk of the movie kind of walking around, stepping over debris, stepping around bodies. So it has this sense of suspense where we see everything, but we know that she doesn't. I like that. I think it's a fun idea. Um, I just I guess maybe it's maybe a modern perspective thing. I just really wish it played with it more, the killer stalking her while she was blindly going around, like watching her or something like that.
Yeah, if my critique of this movie is that it's a little too slow, in my
Hmm.
opinion. It's I do like the angle of like there's dead bodies throughout her house and she's completely unaware of it. And I would have liked, like you said, like an angle where the killer is kind of like stalking her this whole time. But I think like the killer had just broken in because he was robbing them, right?
Yeah,
It wasn't a malicious like I am targeting these people specifically. It was like
yeah.
this guy came from a poor family and he was trying to rob them blind.
Exactly. Yeah. It wasn't like a giallo, like, oh, I'm a killer watching you kind of deal. But maybe it would have just been a little more fun that way because she does find out about the dead body at some point and she starts running around. Well, the way she finds out is there's a guy that runs the horse stable because they're rich and they have horses. And his name is Barker, and I hate the way Mia Farrow says it. It's like Barker. Like I don't, I can't even mimic it, but I
Baka.
yeah, the way she says it. But he runs in, and there's a scene I like where he's like dying, and she's like, "Oh, there's a bracelet on the ground over there," and she's like on the ground, like getting frustrated because she can't find it, and she's like moving her hands. She does finally get it, and it says,
But
"Oh, go ahead."
no, I was like, one thing I like about that scene is that he's like trying to point, and then like as she finds it, like he just dies, and she's like, "Okay, I found it. What now?" And he's just like,
Where are you? I served my purpose. I got you the bracelet. The script doesn't need me anymore.
"Yeah."
um, but yeah, she gets that. There, but before this, I do have to bring this up. Her boyfriend that she's leaving behind buys her a horse as a gift, and he clearly states, he says, "Oh, now you have to stay here. You can't leave and do because it sounded like she wanted to do something good. She's like, I'm gonna go learn how to do something and really help people out with and then he was like, no, you're gonna stay here with me. So here's a horse and you're gonna have to take care of it.
What a nice guy.
Oh yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah.
Just giving her a burden.
Yeah. Here, have a whole horse blind lady. Take care of
Yeah.
it. You know that
I
thing that
mean,
blinded you?
well, I mean, she still clearly loves horses. I mean, because
That is true.
they do go riding like that is like a final like that's what they do when she's like on the date or
Yes,
whatever. Like, so she still clearly loves horses and she doesn't hold any ill will.
that's
But
true.
that is kind of messed up. Just like, oh well, I got you this horse, so if you stay here, then you have to take care of the horse.
Yeah, I think it's messed up, but I don't know. Maybe audiences in 71 thought it was cute.
Oh, that's romantic. They gave him a reason
Oh,
to stay.
maybe I should do that sometime.
Yeah. Well, next time I want to, like if my ex is leaving, like, no, I bought you a horse. You gotta leave. You gotta stay.
You have a horse at their front door. They have no way to take care of it, and you're bringing it in the door. This is sound like a fun comedy bit. I'm
Yeah.
liking it.
I'm taking notes.
Okay, good for our sketch comedy show. Um, yeah. But yeah, so she does get this necklace, and it says, well, she doesn't know what it says because I guess she can't read even though it's indented, she can't read it. Um, but I think somebody says it. Does Barker say no? He dies. Who is the one who's like, oh, it says Jack on here? Well, it's after she stumbles away and she ends up at like it's a gypsy camp is where she ends up.
Yeah, they don't say gypsy. They say
Yeah, but they're all camped out, and she's Mia Farrow's like crying, and what an insane moment when she's crying and like full force. This lady who's like consoling her just slaps her across the face, or she's
yeah,
not crying.
she's
She
not
makes her
crying. Yeah.
cry.
Yeah. And
Yes.
she's like, and then Mia Farrow starts crying. It's like, they're much better. And like just forcing her because she's in well, because we didn't meant
Oh
like
yeah.
leading up to that, she does get out of the house and she's just like full on freaking out. Like
Yeah.
she doesn't know what's going on. She can't see what's in front of her.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like she falls off of a hill and like it's like covered in dirt and mud.
Oh God,
And
yeah, that seems
the
insane.
and she's just like a total mess and she just stumbled and she's just like because I think the killer doesn't like the killer interact with her like yet at that
Yeah,
point. So
the killer does chase her at that point, and
yeah.
she gets away because she I think she's running in the forest, and she ends up being able to hide away from her or him.
Imagine a blind person being better at hide and seek than you are.
That's bad. There's no playing hide and seek ever again after that one. But come to find out when she gets to the camp, um, they know who it is. They see the bracelet and like, oh, it says it. They say it out loud too, but I guess she doesn't hear it. He goes,
Yeah,
oh, it says Jack.
yeah, and they're like, oh no, that's Jack. I go as Jacko though. They confront somebody else at the camp, like you were supposed to just rob them. You weren't supposed to kill them, type of thing. He's like, I swear I didn't do it. I was just there to because I was taking the girl out on a date. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was her cousin, right? Because
Yes,
that
yeah.
like he was just taking like one of the gypsy guys was like taking her out on a date. I guess that's how they like knew that the family was rich.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, he's kind of innocent. That there's so she ends up getting chased around. But well, actually, they tell her like, "Oh, you're gonna be okay. We're gonna take you to the police." And then the dude locks her into the shed.
Yeah.
But she does get out. She gets out pretty quickly, and I think that's when she ends up like she's walking around, doesn't know what's going on. She falls down the hill, gets muddy, messy, and starts screaming. And luckily, her boyfriend he gets wind of what's going on and he does save her. And that's probably when the movie's biggest mistake happens because everything's okay. They got her safe. She's taking a bath. She wants to. And then they're like, okay, you stay, you take care of her, and we're all gonna leave and we're gonna hunt down this guy. And I think leaving her alone is
Yeah.
she is such a bad idea.
yeah, they're like, okay, we're not going to leave anybody here, even though we know that there's a known killer on the loose.
Yeah, and we have to
And,
hunt him down.
and the killer obviously knows who you are and has seen you, so, and knows
Yeah.
where you live. So, yeah, let's just leave you here alone.
Yeah, and this is the worst like lynch mob I've ever seen because they go up to the camp and they're like, oh, where's Jack? Where's Jack? And they're like, this is Jack right here. And he's like, I didn't mean it. And then they look at the bracelet like, oh, it says Jacko. And literally they don't say anything. They pack up and just like leave. And I thought that was so funny that they were like, oh, okay, his name's Jack, not
My
Jacko.
our
Okay.
mistake. See ya.
Yeah, bye. I thought that was so stupid. Um,
No,
but they
yeah.
go ahead.
No, yeah. It really really just proves like how incompetent they have been as a group.
Yeah.
And I gotta say too, like her boyfriend also, like we've said it, I feel like we it's been like a running theme lately, like no personality.
Yeah, that's boyfriends in movies, right? Like
Like
if our main character's a girl, her boyfriend has to be the most like plain,
vanilla. Yeah.
yeah, uninteresting. Because he doesn't really do anything. Like, I mean, he gives her the horse gift, he goes on the hunt, but like he doesn't actually save her really, not until the very end. Because she's taking a bath and she thinks everything's fine, but as we see, the killer is just watching her taking a bath, just sitting there. I do think this moment was cool because she reaches to go get soap and then his hand is there, so he feels it and he starts drowning her, but her boyfriend comes in and saves the day, smacks him in the back of the head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I it like I said, it just goes back to like the whole Giallo thing where it's just
Mhm.
like who is this guy? Doesn't matter. He's not
Uh,
he's
that's
not that important.
yeah, because the camp lead that goes nowhere. That goes nowhere, and like the guy they killed, I'm sure. Judging by what you said, you felt the same way as me. Or it's like, who, who was that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a nobody. I think I looked it up. It's just somebody who worked at the stables.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I'm like they probably showed him for like 1 second or
Uh-huh.
something. I probably don't remember, but I mean, because there's not really any like red. I at first, like I feel like they're kind of setting up like Barker to be like the red herring because
Yeah,
he's a little like shifty like when she meets him,
a little standoffish.
but yeah, there's not even like a whole like oh like well it's obviously this person like a whole like red herring thing, but
Hmm.
they don't. I guess I would have liked a little more of a mystery to this movie, where it was just
Yeah.
kind of like something where I could feel a little more invested in who like the actual killer is or whatever. But overall, I mean, it's not bad. It's not a bad movie.
Yeah, I think it's okay. I think it's okay. Like I thought it was fine. It's just very like a plain look at like a situation like this, and like you said, it could have been played up more. I'm gonna attribute that more to the time it was released, the early '70s. I don't think the genre maybe had been evolved that much, and they were just like, oh, let's just make a home invasion movie, a very plain home invasion movie where we see everything.
Well, that's kind of like when I was saying earlier, like, oh yeah, that makes sense that this is this director because I, I mean, this might be bad of me to say, but I mean, like the last two that we saw with him with his movies and this one, it's like they're good, but I've never really been like wowed by any of this stuff where it's just like, oh my god, that was so great. Like, because I remember Fantastic Voyage, and 20,000 Leagues. It was kind of like the whole like, oh yeah, that looked great and everything, but but we didn't really care about like the story or the characters that much.
Yeah, he feels like a director for hire. Like you'll get in, he'll do the job, he'll get it done, but there's not a lot of flair there to keep it strong, like memorable. Like I'll probably forget that I saw this movie at some point. Probably a bit more
Yeah,
than Fantastic Voyage and 20,000 Leagues because those are big spectacles where this is very, very low key.
yeah, and I mean, I think like other movies. I mean, I know he's directed a lot more, and he was a lot bigger in the back in the day.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, because I take that back. I do remember liking Soylent Green, but
No,
then it's been a long time.
Yeah, I mean, he's made so many movies, and I won't say he's a bad director. I mean,
No,
he's made Academy Award nominated movies. Like, I think I mean, people don't love this movie, but the original Doctor Dolittle he made, that was nominated for Best Picture. Tora 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 as well. So,
Mandingo.
and, oh, great, thanks, wonderful. He made Mandingo. Uh, but no, I mean, it's one of those things. He's just made enough movies that some are hits, some are not. But he he sure worked. He worked a lot.
No, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, definitely a working guy, but like I said, it when you kind of put the when I realized that, I was just like, oh, okay, I can kind of believe that now that he directed this movie because it wasn't like anything too special.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense. But yeah, I do think that wraps it up. I honestly I won't give it a recommend. I say I don't recommend it.
It's a pretty forgettable movie. It's not bad. It's not like a really big waste of your time, but not worth
Mhm.
seeking out either.
Exactly. All right. Well, Ryan, what are we going to be covering on Thursday?
Well, Nathan, we're gonna be Quan Su dude and going over and seeing Surf Ninjas, which that is free on Tubi right now.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to watch that one. But if you want to recommend us anything, be sure to email us at driveitdoubleFeaturedPodcast@gmail.com. Also, Spotify has this feature where you can comment on our podcast now. So, hell, if you're listening to it on there, comment movie. We'll watch it. Be sure to check out our Patreon. Check us out over at X at DIDF Pod. But until next time.
Until next time.